1718 GMT. This is Europe Today. Now, a public consultation has been launched in Britain to decide how much cash compensation people who donate eggs and sperm to fertility clinics should be allowed to get. There's a limit of about €300 at the moment for donating an egg, a process which involves a harvesting operation and taking potentially dangerous drugs. And that's thought to be the reason why people in the UK become so-called fertility tourists and go abroad because of a lack of donors where they're from. In Spain, women donors get more than €900. In the US, women can be paid up to the equivalent of €6,000. But where do you draw the line between providing the right encouragement and turning fertility into a business? I'm joined by Dr. Alex Plowes from the campaign group No to Exploitation, that's a pun, and by Laura Vitchins, who's chairwoman of the National Gamete Donation Trust and who has donated an egg herself. You're for the idea of bigger financial rewards for egg donors, aren't you, Laura?
Yes, I am. First, can I say you don't just donate an egg, it's a complete cycle, which means anything between 10 and 20 eggs. But it's, as you say, it's finding the balance between recognizing what donors do, both egg and sperm donors, and being at the same time careful that doesn't become a financial incentive. So it's not as black and white as we pay little money on one hand, or we go to the American situation where they pay thousands. And that's the debate we're having in, as you say, in the UK. What is a reasonable amount, keeping in mind not just the donors, but also ultimately the welfare of the child conceived, or by the person conceived, and of course the patients.
Just before I go to Dr. Plowes, Laura, how does the procedure work? You harvest a cycle.
Effectively, as a donor, in a case of egg donation, you go through IVF and take hormones, which can be very uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie about that. I was menopausal and it wasn't fun. And you have you're going to be checked every couple of days, and after a couple of weeks you have an operation, in my case general anesthetic, where they do harvest whatever eggs are available. In my case that was 13, so it's not just one egg, it's anything between, well, some donors have just very little, but average I think between 10 and 15 of eggs are harvested from a cycle, yeah.
Okay, Dr. Alex Plowes, it sounds pretty unpleasant and difficult. Who, if they're not donating for a close relative or a close friend, is going to go through that for €300?
Yes, well, as Laura's just said, it's not a black and white issue. It's quite a complex one. You know, and I think we'd all agree that there are significant health risks with this procedure. You know, ovarian hyperstimulation is a condition that I think up to 1 in 10 women can suffer from as a result of taking these drugs, and I think any potential that such risks are taken purely for financial gain is unacceptable, and I think that would be a position that both of us would share.
So hasn't Spain got it more or less right, giving somewhere in the region of €900, which, you know, to go through that you have to risk quite a lot. It seems a fair reward.
I think once you start talking about rewards and incentives, I think it's quite difficult. I think from a sort of an ethical position, you want to be very clear that people are taking a risk, and it's a risk that they're taking because they want to make a contribution either to society more generally, or to perhaps it's like kin altruism for their sister or for their daughter or so forth. I think I remember being on a programme a little while ago, and somebody said, "Oh, well, sort of £300 is not a lot of money." And I said, well, actually, for some people, it's a huge amount of money. It's an amount of money that people would take take a significant risk for if that was on the table. And really, it's I think the debate's more about how do you perhaps encourage a more considered, careful, altruistic donation.
Well, is your reply you just rely on friends and relatives doing it out of the kindness of their hearts?
But that's not realistic. The reality, in an ideal world, we wouldn't need egg donation because people are healthy and they don't meet Mr. Right later in life. And if you do need egg donation, then you have friends and sisters jumping in. I mean, I guess from a idealistic standpoint, we actually agree. But I deal with the reality as well, and see that patients. That's not how it works.
Sure.
I donated because I could. I wasn't linked to a sister or a friend, and I would guess that most patients would prefer to have it via a member of family, also because they at least know who the donor is. But that's not how it works. The Spanish situation is, you call it good. It's good if you consider that they haven't got a shortage of donors. At the same time, if you look at the profile of the donors, they're typically poorer women who may take risks that they otherwise wouldn't take. It's naive to think that money doesn't corrupt.
Okay, Laura and Alex, I'm afraid I'm going to have to wrap it up there, but thank you both for taking part in the discussion. Alex Plowers from the campaign group No to Exploitation and Laura Vitchens from the National Gamete Donation Trust. This is Europe Today.